Good day, dear friend, and welcome. Welcome to today's version of this thing of ours. I welcome you and ask you to have a seat, settle up, plenty of seats at the front. Come on in, have a piece of crumb cake, sit down, and enjoy the festivities as I present them to you. As you know, before we begin the benediction, let me remind you, dear friends, that it is 146 days until the election. 146 days until the election. And there's a lot, there's so much to take in. A lot of it's important, a lot of it's not, a lot of it's sort of But I want to talk about a couple of things today. First of all, I want to talk about this terrible case of Julian Wood, this young boy who was butchered by this absolute savage, this horrible person whose name I don't even want to mention, but I do want you to look at the smirk. A 3-year-old boy stabbed to death, butchered by this thing. This person who is completely devoid of anything even remotely resembling human spirit and the like. And how people are going to say she has become and will become the Willie Horton. You don't remember Willie Horton. Willie Horton was a Lee Atwater creation in which Willie Horton was on a furlough. And while he was on a furlough pursuant to a program that Michael Dukakis, at the time governor of Massachusetts, had arranged and had agreed to, Willie Horton went on and did some despicable things and I think raped and murdered or hurt other people. And this picture of him was presented very, very grainy, very, very rough. And he was indeed, it was Willie Horton. And it was a mugshot. It was Willie Horton. But immediately people said that it was racist because it depicted a black man and it it spoke to the fears that the white community had about black men, to which Atwater and others said, no, it's not about black men. It's about criminals and rapists and people who are of that ilk. And if they are if they are Filipino or if they are from Ceylon, who cares? But of course, that was partially true, but not really. Partially true, yes, but not. Okay. So I want you to look at the smirk. Now, the smirk, believe it or not, is going to be used as evidence of or indicia of her mental instability and the like. They're going to use this. They're going to say, look how she's smirking, look how she's crazy, look at this behavior. Obviously, she did not know right from wrong, and we'll explain a little bit about that. Next, we'll talk about the more on Kevin Spacey and why people are believing this nonsense. How most people don't want to hear that Steve Bannon may not have any basis whatsoever to claim any executive privilege, but because people like Steve Bannon, they say, well, that's okay. I say, well, all right, maybe, I like his spunk. But again, when it comes to legal matters, people aren't asking the question, well, is what he's saying correct? Doesn't matter to people. They just like him. And he obviously is being put in jail because of his politics, which certainly is a great motivator. And then we'll talk about the Pope. Did the Pope issue another anti-gay slur? And what was the slur? And why don't we spell the slur out? And why do you leave a letter out of the word with an asterisk? And why does that somehow sanitize the word which people find to be so vile and so distasteful? We'll talk about all of that coming up. Please make sure you are subscribed at Lionel Nation. Please, the number of people who are unsubscribed is incredible. By the way, I'm finding myself subscribed to people on YouTube, or excuse me, on Twitter that I never signed up for. But in the meantime, here is a great word from a great man and a great sponsor and a great product. MyPillow.com, promo code Lionel. It's time yet again, my friends, to hail and salute our great friends at MyPillow.com. And if you use promo code Lionel, you'll get a free gift. No purchase necessary. And yes, I know, a free gift. It's a tautology, so sue me. But first, listen carefully. Check out their $25 extravaganzas. Premium My Pillows, Queen and King, My Pillow 2.0, My Pillow bed sheets, the lowest price ever. Sandals, slides, slippers, 6-piece towel sets, 4-pack dish towel sets. Simply and absolutely unbelievable. So go to mypillow.com/Lionel, mypillow.com, promo code Lionel, or call 800-645-4965, and watch how fast Mike Lindell answers the phone. mypillow.com, simply and absolutely the best. Now, my friends, when you want to really get somebody's attention and you really want to make to really focus, you go for the heart. You go for something that's sentimental. You go for something that's easy. You can call it low-hanging fruit. You can call it whatever you want. But this beautiful little boy, Julian Wood, with his mother, who were absolutely just at a store, bothering nobody, just having just a good day in an Ohio grocery store in Olmsted. Little Julian Wood and his mother were both stabbed around 3 p.m. Monday in a parking lot of a Giant Eagle grocery store in North Olmsted, a city 15 miles outside of Cleveland. And the police report that a woman, seemingly a woman, 32-year-old Bionca Ellis. I only say her name. I don't normally like to show pictures of her, but this is a different story. Bionca, Bionca. And by the way, it's funny, Bionca White, if it's technical. Anyway, she was still carrying a butcher knife that was used in this fatal attack. And during her arraignment or her court appearance, they said, do you want to reply or do you understand? And she says, see. And she's looking at the camera and smirking in a way that cannot possibly be put into words in terms of the anger and the horror that I feel. Smirking, laughing. She thinks it's funny. Now, you know and I know, if this was a white man and let's say a beautiful black or African-American baby girl or boy, it'd be called a hate crime. And Ben Crump would be there and maybe Al Sharpton, and they would ask, how did this monster get let out in the first place? Because she had a prior instance, a prior beef, a prior confrontation with the police and that sort of thing. How can this horrible woman be allowed? Okay, fine. All right. And you know and I know. You know and I know exactly hate crime. But this is different. This doesn't exist. Hate crimes, by the way, mean nothing. You've heard me say this till I'm blue in the face. I don't care about a hate crime. I care about a crime. What motivated somebody is another story. And by the way, is she insane? Absolutely not. I can tell you right now. Absolutely not. Why? Because of the McNaughton rule. Nobody satisfies the McNaughton rule. Nobody. I don't think it even exists. I don't even think anybody's ever even successfully alleged it. And it basically means, and this is the part that kills you, that kills any chances of this. You do not know the difference between right and wrong. That's the difference. You don't know right. You don't know. You don't know this is against the law. You have no idea. You're not familiar with this being against the law. Not at all. You have no... It is. I didn't know it's against the law. I thought I was pushing a button. I didn't know somebody was there. That doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the real world. It doesn't. I mean, it sounds good. It sounds terrific. And people might like that. It doesn't exist. And one of the biggest problems These are the people that you think would be absolutely 100% crazy, aren't. Let me give you an example. There was a case of a person who pushed or intended to push or tried to push or did push a woman in front of a train, a subway. And when asked, didn't you know it was wrong? He said, yes, I knew it was wrong. Well, why'd you do it? The voices told me. The voices. They told me to do it, but I knew it was wrong. So does that qualify? Technically, that takes him out of the insanity defense because he knew right from wrong. But he heard voices. It doesn't matter. But he was pushed to do this by the voices. Doesn't matter. He knew right from wrong. A lot of times, too, people will try to conceal themselves afterwards. They're in a paranoid, really crazy people. They're in a paranoid fugue, and they run and they hide and they hide behind police cars and they hide. Why? Because the enemy's coming. They think they're in war, and they look at the police as being not police, but members of who knows, the deep state or the enemy or something. They're in this warlike fugue, this paranoid fugue, and that's what they think. So you see that too. That doesn't qualify. But look at the smirk of this woman. Look at the smirk and watch her face. I don't even want to show it again. It makes me so. And she looks like a human being. Seems like a human being. She's not mentally ill. Because society has this thing about evil. They think that evil is this silly word. You're complicating it. You're paying reverence. You're elevating just plain old, just bad. They're just bad. They're horrible people. They're not even worthy of being called evil. Evil would be a kind of a step up. Evil sounds like, oh, he's evil. No, they're just, I don't know what the word is. They're just demented. They're whatever. Now she, if you bring her up, is going to be the Willie Horton. They're going to say this. They're going to say, you're using this because she's black, because she's unattractive, because, well, she's unattractive, not because she's black or because she's unattractive, because she butchered a 3-year-old boy. That's why she's unattractive. And you can say whatever you want, but anybody who does it to a child, and it goes to show you, and this is the most important, this is what I want you to understand. It's this attitude that we have. One of the reasons why we didn't have this kind of behavior before was because even crazy people knew this is not the place or the time to pull this. Do you think we've had psychotic people since the beginning of time? We've had some of the most brutal serial killers you could ever imagine. I think Albert Fish, during his day, would qualify with anyone as being one of the most savage and awful and terrible in the history of humankind. This is in the 20s or maybe earlier. I don't even know. So there's always been. So why do you think there were fewer of them there? Why? Well, one of the reasons why is because law and order was so brutal. And I'm not necessarily advocating a brutal law and order, but everybody knew. It set the tone. We had, in some cases, warehousing. I know this is a terrible term, but we had a way of institutionalizing the severely mentally ill. But when the libs of the 60s and 70s said, we have to let these people go. It's unfair. The word bedlam comes from the pronunciation of a British mental hospital called or jail or mental hospital called Bethlehem. But in their particular colloquialism, they called it Bedlam. They knew then. There's no sense of law and order. When these people see on TV And for me to tell you, this is the part that kills me. When you say, don't bring up the race of the people involved. Don't bring up the race. Don't bring up, talk about the crime, but don't say who these people were. Don't say, well, a whole bunch of black kids walked into a Sephora, walked into a CVS, walked into a Walgreens with big garbage bags and cleaned off the shelves of items. That's why we now have to lock. I don't know if you have this, but here in New York, you lock up everything, everything, everything because of stealing. And they're not all black, but there are significant numbers who are. Is that racist? Is that a needless demographic? If I were to say, well, they're black. If I said to you, Venezuelan, the Tren de Aragua, this Venezuelan criminal cartel, this group, they're Venezuelan. Should I bring that up? Yeah, they're Venezuelan. Yeah, but is that anti-Hispanic or No, they're Venezuelan. MS-13, Salvadorian. Why do you have to bring that up? Because it's MS-13, the Chinese triad. Do you have to bring up the Chinese? They're Chinese. The mafia, the Russian mafia, the Albanians. Come on, I don't understand this. So why can we not say that there are groups and swaths of people, not black folks in the country, but in certain parts of the cities, there are in certain cities, absolutely. I think we have gotten past this. We can't call them all. Nobody's calling anybody anything in groups. Raul says, were the people afraid to scream, she has a knife? They didn't know she had the knife. Raul, and thank you, by the way, if you watch the surveillance film, as she walked into the store, she had the knife in her hand, but nobody noticed. We prosecuted a guy years ago. True story. Now, when I tell this, people think, that didn't happen. No, it happened. There was a guy who used to go to it was a combination. You've seen these, like a gas station, kind of a shop mart, like a bodega, 7-Eleven kind of a deal where it was a service station or some gas station, but there were these these men would meet there every day, and they kind of have these little chairs, and it was small area time, and they'd have their whatever. This one guy came in all the time, every single day, all the time. Okay. Now, what's interesting to know was one day he came in and he decided he was going to rob. The guy was a little slow. A little slow was a nice way that people used to say he was not all there. We have all these euphemisms for this. So this guy came in and he decided that he was going to one day rob the place that he went every single day for most of his adult life. He was going to go in and rob it. He was going to rob it, and he thought, now is a good day to rob it. So he shows up, believe it or not, one day wearing or carrying, toting a shotgun in his hand. A shotgun. He walks in carrying a shotgun. Again, in his hand. They didn't even notice it. Because they knew him. Now, I don't know if anybody knew her, but the point is, you would think that sometimes if somebody's carrying something outrageous, who's he was masked, by the way, and he walked in and he said, "I'm going to rob the place," and they knew exactly who he was. Even he had a mask. He had the Star Wars watch. He had Adidas, the dirty Adidas shoes. He had a tattoo with the words misspelled. They had the whole bit, and they knew who he was. And he comes in, even fired a round, and there was a Budweiser kind of a clock, and he wanted to get their attention. They said, okay. give this man. They knew who it was. They knew who it was. Police showed up. Here's the deal. They called 911, and there was a deputy who happened to be coming in for coffee or gas or whatever it was. At the same time, he hangs up the phone. There's the deputy saying, "Damn." He said, "What happened?" He said, "Listen, Jerry," and they're all sitting around calm. Yeah, Jerry robbed the place. They were almost reluctant. What do you mean? Well, he came in, he had a shotgun. How do you know it was Jerry? Well, he had he had a mask on, but he had the Adidas watch on, the Adidas shoes, a Star Wars watch, and the tattoos with the words misspelled. And by the way, that's his truck out there. And inside his truck was his checkbook and his everything had his name and his address. It was clearly Jerry. So they went to Jerry's trailer. Tip number one. They knock on the door and say, "All right, Jerry, come on out. Sheriff's office. Come on. We know you're in there." He goes, "What do you want?" He goes, "Jerry, come on. We know it's you." And they were kind of tipped off. He was a little slow, but he did have a shotgun, so they're paying attention. "Jerry, we know it's you. Come on out." "What do you mean?" "Well, how do you know it's me?" "Look, Jerry, the victims and the witnesses identified you." And Jerry said, quote, "That's impossible. I was wearing a mask." So this is the, Now, did Jerry have any particular types of did Jerry have any defenses available to him? Well, not really. He wasn't insane. He was stupid, which, by the way, more stupid people, if ever there was a defense, it would be stupid. So anyway, so this woman will not be able to, unfortunately, avail herself. Well, unfortunately for her, she will not be able to avail herself of any type of defense because she is not insane. You can call her evil, call her whatever she wants, but you got to ask yourself, what is it about her? Now, they're also doing something with this case, which I want to make you aware of. They're giving the judge in a previous matter of hers all kinds of grief because she was there. She has no violent criminal record. He put her on, there was some condition of release or something. I forget what it was. Something that, how do I say this? Something that she was put on probation for. But the judge, and this is important, the judge was, how do we say this? Involved in, for lack of a better word, he looked at the case, he looked at what was going on, and he said, this is important, he looked at the facts of the case, put her on probation, and did what he had to do. Now, did he know she was going to go on and kill somebody? Of course not. Happens all the time. There are most people who are found in, how do I say this? There are people who are found in, who commit crimes who've never done anything before. So they're going after the judge, and that's kind of unfair. What do you do with her? You're going to have to teach her a lesson. And if she does not, I'm not sure if there's a death penalty in Ohio, but if she is not entitled to that, I don't know what is. Now, I want to talk about something else, which is very important, very, very critical. And this is a case involving the Pope. A fascinating case involving the Pope. And in his second utterance of a word that I cannot say for reasons that I do not understand. But there is this word, there is this thing, there is this phrase, there is this, how do I say this? I guess you might want to call it this review. How do I say this? There is this attempt to explain what the Pope said. And they tried to say it in a way that was not considered problematic. To make a long story short, very, very, very short, he's talking about a church policy. And he used a word which does not necessarily convert into a straight American explication. But as you can imagine, people are going crazy trying to ask, why is he doing this? So I'm going to explain what the Pope said without saying it, because for purposes of this algorithm, there's certain words and things you don't say. It's not a good idea. But I will speak around it. I will speak around it as much as possible and refer you to my other particular discussion panel where I can actually use the word which is in the news, which I do not understand. But in any event, dear friend, let us stop for 1 second, take a brief respite, a brief moment away to talk about something very serious. And that is called either food insecurity or food emergencies in the event of horror. And that's why I provide the following to you for your perusal and review. From our good friends at preparedwithlionel.com, listen like you've never listened before. It's no longer a question of if something catastrophic is coming, it's when. And while you still have some control, what are you going to do about it now to prepare? Well, your first step is going to my website, preparedwithlionel.com. And for a limited time, take $200 off a 3-month emergency food supply. My Patriot Supply is equipped to help you and your family to prepare. They've helped over 2 million families already. These 3-month kits with ready hour foods provide over 2,000 calories every day with 22 varieties and a 25-year shelf life. Breakfast, lunches, dinners, drinks, snacks, everything. And they're sealed inside 6 rugged waterproof buckets, and they're over 120 pounds of food. So take advantage right now and go to preparewithlionel.com, preparewithlionel.com. One more time, preparewithlionel.com. Now, my friend, there is a case here involving the Pope and involving a use of a word. And I advise you to review the particular word that is used to see if it makes any sense, to see if you find it problematic, to see if you find it. But what's important to note, and I'm going to speak very, very elliptically, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do today, my friend. You have to speak very elliptically. You have to speak almost in code, and you know all about this. But I think we can do it. I think we can kind of get through this in any event. First and foremost, if there is a word that is used, irrespective of the word, and it's an offensive word, or people don't like the word, or people, whatever it is, why is it that people insist upon putting, leaving one letter out and putting an asterisk in? Please tell me why this is in any way acceptable. One. If that's what was said, and you're quoting what was said, and you're not going to say, I'm not even going to bring up the word. No, you spell the word out, but you leave out one letter. It'd be like me saying, here's a picture, here's nudity, but I'm going to put a little pixelated part of her knee. And you can say, I see something else. I see something else here. I see the other thing. Well, we pixelate this. Yes, but I know what this is. I don't understand this. How did we get to the point with this? Does this make us feel good? And then you read another story that uses a word, but it's not the word. It is the American version of a word. And there's something that you have a hard time understanding, trying to explain variations of words, to explain, how do I say this? For you to explain, for you to grasp, for you to I can use a word in slang. I can use a word in context. This is one of the problems that people have. If you've ever seen married couples, people who marry somebody from another country and somebody who speaks a language that you don't, and you hear variations in slight words that are used that have absolutely no concept whatsoever to an English speaker, but they have a lot in others. But here is the best part. And again, I want you to you can read about this, and you can also read something about the the first or the second dicastery. This is the most important. This is the first dicastery or the second? I forget what it was, but it is an actual proclamation since 2005 as to what the Pope, what the Catholic Church feels about a priest joining, or somebody who wants to be a priest, somebody in the seminary, somebody who's not somebody who is a participant. When it comes to being a participant, to being a celebrant, to being a Catholic, you can be anything you want, pretty much. Free of sin if your heart is open and this and that. However, surprise, surprise, when it comes to priests themselves and seminaries themselves and those individuals who are considering the priesthood, you would be very surprised as to the prohibitions that are available. Now, the next thing is important to understand. There's a thing called house rule. And house rule means this. If I want to be a member of the Coptic Christian order, let's say, or if I want to be an Orthodox Jew, a Hasidic Jew, if I want to be a Salafist, if I want to be a Sunni Muslim, whatever it is, if I either want to adopt that or I'm born into it, there are house rules about maybe wearing a beard, wearing a hat, wearing certain forms of clothing, wearing things that are verboten, practices, driving, keeping the faith, keeping the Sabbath, whatever. It's a house rule. I might think it's silly. You might think it's silly, but it's a house rule. And it's a rule that has absolutely nothing to do with your own personal view of what is and isn't okay. And you don't have the right to say yes or no. If the Catholic Church wants to prohibit women from bringing a priest, there is nothing you can do. It's a house rule. If they have a rule against children being a priest, or people who are married, men and women who are married, or people who were married, or people who are thinking about being married, or people who, let's say, are, I know this is a very tough stuff, but priests who are alcoholics. You know what interesting? Years ago, this blew my mind. I don't know why, but I thought it was fascinating. There was a subject that I heard regarding, and this again kills me. It was a home or a place for alcoholic nuns. And I said, alcoholic nuns? Where are they? First of all, where are they drinking? But I'm thinking of the nuns, when I was, in a Catholic school, those are wonderful days. And they were the best, and the nuns in particular. But I thought to myself, wow, nuns? Drunk? No, really? Anyway, that blew my mind. So the thing is, people have this idea that they can vote. They don't ever apply this to other faiths. They don't ever demand that Muslims modernize their ways. They never say anything about priests. About imams. No way. Catholic only. Catholic is open season. Now, it's a fascinating subject as to what is and isn't acceptable under the church. So in any event, this guy, we thought, this is a leftist. socialist, globalist, Jesuit he's the first non-European. And we thought for sure this guy's going to be, one of these kind of Soros type. Apparently not, because the prohibitions as to priests and members, and not necessarily their particular behavior, but what they think is still in effect. And he's standing firm to that. That blows people away. That blows people's minds. Because they think, well, that's not fair. Excuse me, it's a house rule. It's a house rule. I love when people claim to be Catholic. I love this. I say, oh, do you observe the holy days of obligation? What? What's that? You're not a Catholic. Sorry. Now, I'm irreligious. I'm not even a member of the club. I'm a retired Catholic. But what's interesting is that they think they can just write the rules. No. This is the way it is. People always have this thing too about Catholic Church. They always say things like, how do we say this? They'll say, words to the effect of, how is it that they can annul a marriage? How can they annul? Like what? It never happened? But there's annulments in legal work. Yeah, but that's different. How can they do that? Easy. As far as the church service, the church recognition of the marriage goes, they can do that. Not the legal. And they love to pick on Catholics. Anybody else, they never say anything. Oh, God, no. You want to talk about Orthodox Jewish? You want to talk about that? No, of course not. No, you want to? That might be anti-Semitic. Think about it. Just by pointing out behaviors, practices. You can't. People, and my rule is very, very simple. It's a house rule. The government has absolutely no say on this whatsoever. It's not a democracy, and you can't vote in favor of a particular rule. You can't vote in favor. You can't say what is and isn't acceptable. You can't. But what the Pope has done is it's absolutely interesting. And how they have converted the particular word that he used, which is kind of a slang, and the American version of it, I don't know how they did that. And they keep repeating it, but they will leave one letter out. Now, I will tell you this right off the bat, that if you do not want to be a Catholic, if you do not want to be a member of the system, don't be one. Nobody's forcing you. Nobody. You are going to see a resurgence of it like you have never seen before, because more people are going back to the church than you ever thought imagined. More people are going back to the church. More people are going back to traditional values and the like, more than you ever thought even possible. Believe me when I say that. And there's a reason for this. And that's why you're seeing in this, quote, right-wing political shifts all over the world. That's why you're going to see a trouncing of Joe Biden. America is just tired of it. The world is tired of it. We want to go back. And this woman who smirked after butchering this Julian Wood is a perfect example of it's stopped. All bets are off. So what I do is I request, I beseech, I implore, I recommend that you go back and read the particular words that the Pope said. For reasons I do not know, they're considered verboten, even though they're in the news. Whatever you're gonna do, that's the way I do that on my other particular formats, and I can speak freely. I never understood that. I've never understood that. I've never understood how, for example, I had a big debate. If you're going to re-show, in fact, Mad TV had a wonderful takeoff of them when they edited The Sopranos. They took all of the inappropriate words out. They showed The Sopranos on A&E, and they tried to redo it. Pulling out the words is one thing. Changing it to freaking, bleeping, no, that's an insult. I will never understand the context The government cares nothing about lying to you. The government cares nothing about sending you to war, stealing your money. Doesn't care anything about that. But it has this incredible sense of, I don't know what the word is, this incredible sense of, I don't know what the word is. This incredible sense of dispassionate, this unconcern for anything else. Doesn't care at all about lying to you, corruption, nothing. But the stuff it worries about, I'll never understand. I will never get it. Our dear friend, oh, hang on a minute. Raul says, in court, would the hate word be used or... Well, no, in court, you would use exactly what the particular phrase was, what the particular sentence was. But I thought to myself, with all that is going on in a world that we live in, where there is absolutely no, concern or, I don't know what the word is, where there is no concern for anything involving decency, where kids today are what's happening in the world, where social media and others are using particular platforms as a means of luring kids into I don't know what the word is, selling their pictures, sextortion, etc., etc. And nobody seems to care about that. The government cares nothing about that. Nothing. This it worries about. By the way, last word, very, very quickly. Please, Mrs. L will tell you this. I will tell you this. I will say this again. If you have children, and if you have grandchildren, or if you know somebody with children, by the way, this is Mrs. L's YouTube channel, which I implore you to follow. Do me a favor. More kids are, there was a recent kid of another kid dying from fentanyl at a party, at an event, something good, little sleepover, good girls, no, whatever. And somebody said, I've got either a Percocet or something that will help you either sleep or relax. Nothing meant by it. No drug trafficking or anything like that. And this young girl said, okay, she thought nothing of it, as most of us would. This is a friend. You go, you don't want to see, how kids are. I mean, look, adults do it. Do you have anything? Try one of these. Who thought? You see a pill and you just don't think that this is manufactured in some lab in Mexico. Well, it was almost pure fentanyl and the child. Pardon me? Oh, pure fentanyl, and the child died immediately. Gone. Now, we can talk about borders and cartels and that sort of thing. Or in the meantime, you have to tell your kids, and Mrs. L will tell you one more time, this is her YouTube channel. You've got to sit down and explain to them and say, let me tell you this story. This is a person, and talk to them. Don't point your finger in the air. Say, let me tell you what's going on. We do it all the time as an adult. Product recall, blah, blah, blah. You have to be able to tell them, this is what's happening specifically. This is what is happening. And this is where everything is. This is where you are right now. This is a reality. You have to inoculate your kids and immunize them from these things happening. And it's brutal. And there should be and the reason why the government doesn't want to do that is they don't want to remind you that the reason why this is so prolific is because they have basically opened the borders. This is being brought in. This isn't even smuggled in. This just walked in. So please do that. Remember, sit down with them. And don't give me this, well, no. Imagine that. Your kid, this young kid, Julian Wood, I mean, let's face it, who knew they would run into this psychopath? But aside from that, that's a different story. This is so prevalent. You have no idea. And once you're aware of it, you can't believe it. Just like when we talk about sextortion, people say, no, it happens all the time. And then when it happens to you, then you realize, wow. It's like when some people get a disease. Every now and you then say, "Oh, it's you hear about so and so? Yeah, he's got esophageal cancer." Wow. By the way, a lot of times linked to heavy drinking and things like that. Anyway, but esophageal cancer. Wow, that's rare. No, it's not. Then you see the American Esophageal Cancer Society. How many? And then you see support groups and information and donate. How many people? I never knew. Yep. It's like anything else. Once you're involved in it, you realize, my God, I had no idea. Same thing with this. The people whose kids are just, it's over with. And you can ask all day long, why would they want to pass? Isn't it just better to just sell fake things like aspirin? Why do they want to put fentanyl in? By the way, it's fentanyl, not all, it's YL. Why do they want to put fentanyl in something they're selling? Put aspirin in it. The old baking soda, sell counterfeit. Well, they want to kill Americans. This is a poisoning. Do you understand that? This is us going into, and remember the science, remember the Tylenol killer years ago? People put cyanide in Tylenol. Remember that? And that was the inspiration or the basis for tamper-proof. That was to poison indiscriminately, but to be a whatever. Or in kind of industrial espionage, whoever. This is a concerted effort as warfare against the citizens and the inhabitants of the United States. That's what this is. It's like me going in and poisoning. Sometimes we used to say with ideas or with music or with culture. This is me actually going in and poisoning where they live. Think about that. That's all. It's unbelievable. Okay? And there is no comparison to anything you may have thought or experienced in your life ever before. Ever. Anything you did in the 60s or what you thought, forget it. This is a different story completely. Raul Rodriguez, I want to thank you. Howie Brown, thank you. And L. Lightborn, thank you for being a new member and gifting new memberships. I appreciate that immensely. And think, by the way, very, very carefully also. This is a very interesting thing. When you hear these stories, ask yourself kind of what they mean. Why are they going on? Biden is also retooling and re-upping the getting rid of assault weapons, the assault weapons ban thing, which is just absurd. Absolutely patently absurd. The most absurd nonsense I have ever heard in my life. And why they're doing this and how they're doing this, I have no idea. He is so desperate. So incredibly desperate. So they're at the end. There's nothing to do. And he was also in a room full of people. I guess the Adderall was kicking in, speaking of drugs. And the crowd was yelling 4 more years. Can you imagine yelling 4 more years for Biden? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine yelling 4 more years with a straight face? It seriously, it blows my mind how somebody can look at him and say, "You're great. I want you." So the next time somebody says, how can some country vote for some despotic leader? Or how can a country not care or not know? Simple. Look at us. It's that simple. All right? Okay. All right, dear friends, have a great and a glorious day. One more time, please follow Mrs. L at Lynn's Warriors right there. This is information you need to know. And Young Thug's lawyers arrested for contempt. Ah, yes. I saw that. Very interesting. We'll get to that one later. Ah, yes. It never ceases to amaze me. All right, my dear friends. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Please subscribe to the channel. Don't lose faith. Don't lose faith. But make sure you must be armed with information and knowledge. That's the most important point. And don't ask the way things should be. Just understand the way things are. The way things should be. Okay? All right. All right, dear friends, have a great and a glorious day. See you later. Don't forget, stay tuned and make sure you are subscribed because I've got more stuff coming up, more to talk about. I thought you were saying something. Oh, she's listening. Okay. I thought you were about to say something. In any event, see you later. Have a great day. I got a lot of stuff to talk about. More on Kevin Spacey, which fascinates me, and more also on Il Papa. So don't forget until later on, my friends. Remember, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Da, da.